in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. Not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Brothers need to stick together. As a team, we can make it wherever. Just tell me how you feel. Yeah. Just tell me if it's real. Hey.
What a time, what a time, what a time for a black man to be alive. Living in the struggle while trying to keep our composure. Killing each other while trying to look for that exposure. We all just want to make it, we should do it as a team. Build each other up and they can't even say a thing. Me and all my brothers just stuck together like glue. It's us against the world and you know what we finna do. Woo! Pop a bottle, we in here for celebration. We just wanna be the leaders that's pushing the generation. Take a seat and find your zone for the topic of conversation. Yeah.
Brothers need to stick together. As a team, we can make it wherever. Just tell me how you feel. Yeah. Just tell me if it's real. Hey.
What a time, what a time, what a time for a black man to be alive. Living in the struggle while trying to keep our composure. Killing each other while trying to look for that exposure. We all just want to make it, we should do it as a team. Build each other up and they can't even say a thing. Me and all my brothers just stuck together like glue. It's us against the world and you know what we finna do. Woo! Pop a bottle, we in here for celebration. We just wanna be the leaders that's pushing the generation. Take a seat and find your zone for the topic of conversation. Yeah. Find a way for a positive revelation. Now this really ain't the time to be thinking about yourself, cause we just a bunch of hustlers that's trying to give out some help. We turn the cubs into lions inside of the den. Come and join the Brotherhood if you really just wanna win. Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, you will.
All right. This your boy Daniel Lionsden Evans, and we are live inside the den. All right. This your boy Daniel. It's the feedback. All right. Awesome. Pick it up. All right. This is a very special show we got today. We are live inside the den, and for the very first time, we have a panel of guests here. This is the Martin Luther King I Have a Dream Celebration edition, and I have a co-host with me today, Mr. Samuel Williams. Where you at, brother? Can you hear me? Samuel Williams, can you hear me? All right, we'll come back. So we have a panel of entrepreneurs. We have a panel of leaders on this call. I'm gonna go down the line and let everybody introduce yourself because you can tell your story better than I can. So first on the list, I'm looking at Pastor Rashawn Bay. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, Daniel? How you doing, man?
Doing awesome, man. Tell everybody who you are and what's your background, brother.
All right, my name is Pastor Rashawn Bay. I'm excited to be on here. Born and raised originally in Oakland, California. Now live in Mississippi, and by way going to Dallas, Texas too as well. But big on building the community, big on inspiring people that look like us from the middle and lower class communities, and just trying to bring that positivity back into the families and bringing hope back into the people, and being able to unite with strong brothers and being able to lock arms and do some things as we change the value of our last name and be able to set up our generations behind us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Second one I'm looking at right now is Mr. Jay Locke. How you doing, brother?
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Awesome, brother. Let everybody know who you are and what you do for a living.
My name is Jay Locke. I am an international recording artist, entrepreneur, activist. So I'm excited to be here with like-minded brothers.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. We have Brother Samuel Williams and Terrel Campbell. Can you hear me? His audio's not on. Get his audio. I can't hear him. And then also we have Brother Ladarius Davis. Can you hear me, brother?
I hear you guys well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you loud and clear. Tell us who you are and where you come from, and give me some background, brother.
Awesome, man. Good evening to all you gentlemen, man, and thanks for having me on the platform this evening. I'm Ladarius Q. Davis, man, hailing from Greenville, Mississippi. Marine Corps veteran, community activist, and just a man of God, man, here to fellowship and build with like-minded brothers, looking to seek some wisdom and also to spew whatever the Lord has put in me to spew with you gentlemen this evening. And, you know, it's just an honor for us to be able to fellowship and come together, man, to talk about something that really has had an impact on our lives and generations to come, man. So it's a blessing to be amongst you gentlemen, and blessings to all of you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We want to thank you all for joining us on this special edition of Inside the Den, brother. We've been trying to put this thing together for quite some time, and I'm thankful for all you brothers that's on here that can actually take time out your schedule to sit down and just just go through the past and kind of just celebrate Martin Luther King birthday celebration today. Can you hear me now, Brother Samuel? He left out. Okay. All right. So as you all heard coming in, y'all heard the I Have a Dream speech, man. And one of the vision statements for this particular episode is Proverbs 27:17. I'm pretty sure Pastor Bay can appreciate this. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And having like-minded brothers on here, we all in this thing together, man. We believe in each one, teach one. We believe in a brotherhood. And just like they said back in the day that it takes a village to raise a child, the older I get as a man, I realize that we all need each other to actually be a man. This manhood thing is something that we all need to do it together. And I've always said we need 3 men in our life. We need a man that is already has gone where we're gone before. We need a man that's on our level, and we need a man that's younger than us. Those 3 men are going to actually help push you and elevate you to the next level and get you where you need to be as a man. So we're going to open up this panel discussion for questions and things like that, so we can get this thing kicked off and started. And so we're just going to go around the room and ask this question and give everybody 2 minutes to answer. So first, we'll let Pastor Bay go first. We heard Martin Luther King's dream. What is your dream in your life at this time?
Oh man, vision is to um, be in a position to where freedom is controlled by me, which also spills off in having more options and being able to share the knowledge that I have to give that same freedom to the people uh, that share my last name, that don't share my last name. You got family of bloodline, and then you got family of choice. You know, you got people like you I've been knowing for a while. There's family of choice, and you know, being able to have this unity and being in these type of positions, we're able to not have to bow down to the government system. We don't have to bow down to uh, what they're telling us we're doing and what we can and can't do, and then they can't tell us who we are. So with this type of structure and power, we can do a whole lot. And I realize because a lot of stuff that you want, you already got it. You just need the right keys to open up the door. And so that's kind of what our thoughts are.
Awesome answer, brother. Awesome answer. Let's see. Jay Locke, where you at? Can you hear me? All right, let's go with Ladarius. Can you hear me, Ladarius?
I hear you well, brother. Can you guys hear me?
Right. Yeah, we can hear you. What's your dream, brother?
My dream right now is to build with like-minded brothers, to provide more opportunity for men in general, not just black men, but just men in general, where we could be a better foundation and better leadership for our youth. Nowadays, we point a lot of fingers at the youth and say that the youth is out of control, the youth is this and youth is that. But it starts with us. It starts with a family-oriented household. It starts with men of our caliber setting the standard and our actions, vice our words. And my dream is just to see us flourish as a people, as a nation, and to be able to make more opportunities for ourselves, whether that be financially, spiritually, physically, and set a platform where we could thrive.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Where you at, Jay Locke? Where you at? Brother Jay Locke.
I'm backstage.
Okay. All right. And so the next question I want to pose to everybody, I know we got some people they might have some internet issues or whatever, but Brother Ladarius, what is your faith level?
As far as what I believe in, or just faith in general?
What you believe in, just faith in where you are right now, and
faith in where I am right now spiritually. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Faith in where we're going as a people. I'm optimistic. I believe that the way that we're going now, if we continue to do things like we're doing now on this call, surrounding ourselves around like-minded brothers who are willing to put in work and display actions, I have faith that we can overcome and accomplish anything that we set our minds and our hearts to do. Working on one accord is a powerful thing. And like I say, man, I see a bright future for us if we continue to strive. It's nothing that none of us have really set out to do that we hadn't accomplished, but just working as a team, working as one unity, there's no limits to what we can accomplish. So I have faith that we can overcome and continue to thrive the way we see fit, and not the way the narrative has been written for us.
That's awesome. Pastor Rashawn Bey, we know that you are a pastor, and as a believer, you have the charge to motivate and encourage and minister to your people on Sunday mornings. But as a pastor, I do know that you're not exempt from the struggles of life. What is your faith level and where you are right now with the world and everything that's going on right now?
Man, the level of faith is always increasing. I don't want to say I have the maximum faith, because there's so many different levels of tests that I haven't passed yet in this faith, because I realize it's been certain points in my life in the last several years that when you get a certain test that you've never tested before, you find yourself losing sight sometimes. So from that humbling experience, it allowed me to always say, God, allow my faith to be strong, through the test that I don't know that I'm going to face. Because those are the times where you realize that a lot of times it's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm 100%, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. But until you go through that actual situation, you never know what you're going to do, what you're going to say. And that's why I say, I pray that my faith fails me not. But I'm always excited about what the Lord is doing in my life. I'm constantly improving on a regular basis, constantly always going through the trials and trying to still continue to have that joy in the bad situation. Because in good situations, I don't have to practice that. But if I constantly keep allowing myself to smile when things are bad, now you're starting to build strength. Now you're starting to build stamina. And that's what I'm working on now. I'm working on, through the bad times, having something to shout about and having something to be excited about at all times. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. And like we said, we heard Martin Luther King in his famous speech. And one of the things that stuck out to me the most is talking about being able to live in a world where his children can be judged by their character versus their skin color. So the next question, I see you back on, Brother Samuel. How you doing, Brother Samuel?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. Can you guys hear me clearly?
All right. We got your boy back on. So, Brother Samuel is the co-host. He actually set this thing up last year, and we're just going over some of the questions and topics. But before I get to the next question, Brother Samuel, go ahead and let everybody know who you are and what's your background and things like that.
All right, good, man. So I'm Samuel Williams, Marine veteran, 10 years. Man, I can think of a lot of things I can tell you about me, but the only thing I'm proud of the most is being a father. So I'm just creating a path for generations behind me, and using every platform I can. With me today is Terrel Campbell, NAACP member. You know what? You can speak on yourself. You got it.
Okay.
You got it.
My name is Terrel Campbell. Like Sam said, I'm an NAACP member. I've grown up in the organization, had numerous titles, served in both a local and state capacity for several state conferences, and now I'm here at K-State in Kansas doing my chemistry PhD at the tender age of 22. Youngest in the program, very active, very motivated to get going. Can't wait to see what happens.
That's awesome. So I know you all have, like I said, we're having some internet issues. So the first question we asked everybody was, what is your dream? We heard the Martin Luther King speech as we came in, and we heard his dream, but we already heard from a couple of brothers here. But what is your dream as it pertains to where we are right now?
Go ahead, you go first.
Okay. Alrighty. So my dream in the long run, upon completion of this PhD, I intend to break the barrier and take on the role of leading a university as its president. So that way our youth can physically see with their own eyes, somebody who looks like us, paving the way for them to be able to go to school at an affordable rate nonetheless. At this rate, I see universities are struggling. So I just want to give our youth that meaningful light. They've got options. It's not just the streets.
For me, it'd be to break generational curses. Growing up, it's been a lot. I've been told what I can and can't do. So I'm here to break all those curses. I'm here to prove that we can do what we can do with a body of black men like you guys today.
Awesome. All right. So as we get into the next, stage of questioning, do you all have more faith working with black men or white men to accomplish certain goals? And I'll let Brother Ladarius answer first. Dealing with certain things in your life and trying to get things done, who do you have more faith with working with, black men or white men?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I judge a man by the fruit that he bears. His skin tone doesn't really have any more impact on me at this point in my life. I got brothers my color that you know are enemies per se, you know, and the list goes on. But to be honest with you, just open-heartedly, I'm willing to work with any man that has the like mind, like spirit that I have, or someone that we can grow together. You know, it doesn't always have to be just like-minded men that we can grow together with. And sometimes we get in our comfort zone where we would prefer to work with, you know, a black versus a white. But those are things that I'm trying to break, you know, the division, especially within my household with my kids and my family. You know, the fruit that a man bears and his character speaks a lot about him. You know, I've had more different ethnicities of individuals to give me a hand, sometimes more than my own brothers. So I try not to limit myself or box myself into those things. So to answer your question, it's just based on what the fruit that the gentleman is bearing.
Awesome. Brother Samuel.
So for me, I see the man's heart. To me, it doesn't matter what color it is. I have had challenges working with black men, and I have challenges working with white men. At this point, if we don't see the same vision or the same goal, doesn't matter what skin color you are. The only way we're gonna reach that goal together is if we have the same vision.
Okay. Pastor Rashawn, in your line of work, I know you do ministry and you do some financial services as well. But who do you have a better success rate with when it comes down to having faith with working with black men or Caucasian men?
Yeah, like I said, it's really 50-50. I really have a great working relationship with everybody. You know, I would say this: I would like to see more business being done with people that are black as well. I would like to see more of it because I don't see as much business being done, not because I don't want to, but because there's not enough people stepping up to be entrepreneurs, to do business with. And then, of course, a lot of mindset adjustments on the business level, you know, looking at opportunities given to do business that people don't take their business serious. And that's just my thoughts on that. You know, I do business with anybody, but I would like to do more because everybody else supports each other. Why can't we support each other more? You know, that's the problem that we have. There's no support. There's not a lot of dollars circulating in our businesses, but we support everybody else's business, you know? And so if we would get back to really pushing the dollar back into the businesses that we've started just as high as we support everybody else's, then things would thrive a lot more for the black business more than it is today.
And so with that being said, anybody can chime in. With that being said, do you find it more challenging to get the proper support from your own people, or do you get more support from men and people from different backgrounds? Y'all, anybody can answer.
You know what? I think that the pastor made a good comment. Being a businessman and not having, you know, one thing that I see with our people is that we don't really reach one, teach one in the way that we should. Sometimes we get so selfish and caught up in self that we don't show our brothers from A to Z how we do business or how to conduct business or things of that nature. And a lot of times we're not respected for business. It's more respected as a hustle. And I would like to see more blacks be able to conduct themselves in a way where we can do things in decency and order. Go and get your LLCs, file your paperwork the proper way. Let's not take the shortcuts. Let's put in the work that it takes in order to build the community and have that same zeal that we have for other ethnicities with ourselves. It's not that we don't have the income. We have the income, we have the intellect. But for some reason, our people seems to want to cut corners on things, and we've been taken as the laughing stock for our business. And majority of the time when you do business with a Black person, it's how can I say, it's not the appropriate way of doing business. And a lot of times because we hadn't been taught the proper way, or we just don't want to listen. So I agree with what Pastor said, man. I would love to see more of us be able to do business with one another in decency and in order, and to put in the work that it takes to produce a fruitful business.
I concur with that. A lot of times in the Black community, we're not given the proper foundation to achieve our goals. A lot of times, as he's mentioned, we're not taught from A to Z. They usually teach, oh, I made it doing such and such, and then they'll only tell you, I did A, B, and C. But what about the rest of the alphabet? You left that completely out. And that's why you've got so many people out here stranded trying to figure it out.
Why is that? Why do you feel like that? Honestly.
Because we've gotten to the point in the mindset that it's all about self. And if it's all about self, nobody is ever going to get anywhere. We're going to keep dealing with the same problems with history repeating itself over and over and over again.
And so how do you think that we can, as Black men, how do you think that we can change the narrative on moving forward if we have to, if we have that each one teach one, attitude about it? What can we do to help change the narrative so that we can get more respect from our peers and from our people to run successful and to run profitable businesses and get the respect that we need, that we give some of my white brothers and sisters? What do you think we need to do?
Well, for starters, we need to those of us who are teachers need to show others how to teach. We see all the our counterparts teaching each other, this is how you do X, Y, Z. Show that very same thing to the next person. We don't do that. They don't do that.
And Pastor Bay, you had something?
I think the example. A lot of people talk, but there's less action being taken. It's less action being taken. So if more people would be a great example, because it's all about proof. You only got one shot to make a good name. You only got one shot to hold good character, because that's worst thing you can ever have is a bad name. And so the accountability of leaders rising up, being an example, people will be willing to be taught, because people are looking for an example. They're looking for somebody to follow. They're looking for somebody that's willing to step up. They're looking for somebody that's leading from the front. And so if more leaders arise up, and then if more leaders arise up and be an example in front of the people in the community, because at the end of the day, it all starts at home. It doesn't start leaving the building. It doesn't start going to the institution. It doesn't start going to the schoolhouse. It starts before you get in your car, because until that problem gets fixed first, it's going to be very difficult for a person to receive any kind of information. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to get taught and change their mindset or change anything, because if they don't know how to fix their problems at home, whether it's an abusive relationship, whether it's poverty, whether it's violence, whether it's this, whether it's that, until that problem gets addressed first, it's going to be rough. And that's why it's so important for men to get back into these homes and start being an example in front of these children, because these children are acting out because they don't have that father anymore, that discipline. I'm not saying that a mother can't do it, but it's a big role from a man raising a man, showing him how to do things, how to do this. I mean, of course, I didn't raise up in no father home, but where I got a lot of my teaching is from people in the streets. I got a lot of teaching from this and that. So my life could have went either way. I just so happened to run across the right people, but if I could have ran across the wrong people in my life, I could have went a different way. Because if you look at it, when you look at studies and you look at children, look at babies, kids, a kid won't listen to a parent, but if you put another kid in the room, they'll follow that kid because they identify that kid. That's why a lot of times when I look at my children, when they're by themselves, they're okay. But when they come together, they start acting up. So one influences the other. So it's all about where's the influence. It's in television, it's in music, it's in the culture. Everything that's being educated to the people is coming from the strength of the culture in the community. So if you can change the intellect or the power that's in the culture, it can spill off and give people an opportunity to want to read books and want to get out and get educated, want to change, and want to be able to do a lot of things. So it's just a domino effect of things, but it all starts at home. It all starts with the example, and it starts with the new leaders rising up. Martin Luther King is gone. Who's the next leader rising up? Who's the next person out here being that example that's willing to sacrifice and put everything on the line to say, this is what I'm living for, so somebody else can have a better life?
Anybody else want to chime in before we
Yeah, I definitely do. You gentlemen have made some great points, and Pastor Bay has said it all. And my focus has been, sometimes we focus so much on things that are happening outside the home, and we don't nurture what we have been given as our primary duty. If you have sons or daughters or wife, that's your primary duty, and being a leader is more than speaking. It's not even about what you're saying. It's everything that you do. As long as we can continue to set the path ablaze for our future generations and do it unwaveringly, not saying that we're going to be perfect, but consistent, disciplined. We continue to apply these values to our lives and do it within the home, and continue to rebuild the family structure the way that it should be, especially in the Black community, then a lot of things would change at that point. But I agree too. A lot of people are saying, where, there's no more Dr. King, there's no more Marcus Garvey's and these different guys. I live my life being the change that I want to see. I'm not looking for anybody to invest in me. If I see a younger brother who I know has a talent, and I feel his spirit, and I see that he's striding, if I don't sow but $20 sow a seed of $20 into his business, or give him a nugget, that's something. And brother, you said it at the beginning of the call, having someone that's above you who's been there, and having someone that's behind you that you can pour into, those are very important things. So we have to be the leaders that we want to see today. Those leaders have blazed the path for us. Now it's time for us to display in our action and our attitude what it takes to be a strong leader during this time.
That's awesome, brother. And just to just piggyback off of what you're saying, that we always have to be, we got to be part of the solution instead of being part of the problem. And just to change the topic just a little bit, how does marriage today fit in the American dream? We know that they have a vision of what the ultimate American dream is, in maybe white America, and even Black America. But how does marriage fit into the American dream of today?
I can go into that one. Man, for one, TV has got us all screwed up. I can say screwed up, right? I can say that, right?
Yes.
No, just playing. So I know I was gonna make y'all laugh, but it's got us all messed up, man. I mean, just being honest, you got a TV show called Real Housewives of Atlanta, and none of them are even housewives. I mean, it's like our example of what things are isn't the real reality of whatever. You got the woman checking the man, so-called putting him in his place, and pushing him around and saying, give me your debit card or credit card and do all this and that. And it's putting an image out there that other people are copying, doing the same thing. And then you're messing your household up because you're thinking that that's the way you're supposed to do things. Because I was talking to somebody a while back. I said, a lot of what we do is heavily influenced by something we already seen before. A lot of stuff you're saying isn't what you came up with. a lot of stuff. I'm listening to my kids say "bro" a lot. Bro, come on, bro. That's off of something they heard somebody say. So when it comes to these marriages, they're not lasting because we've got false expectations. We're not willing to put in the work, and we're getting with people because of how their body looks and how much money they got. But when that body goes from looking like a peach to looking like a prune, and that money goes away, where's the real love? Where is it? And so, the death till death do us part, sickness, and in health, when you look at these type of things, people are not signing up for the struggle. They're signing up for the glam and the temporary things now. And then so when they see the next best thing, that's why it's so easy for somebody to walk away, because their foundation wasn't based on real love. It was based on, as long as everything goes my way, as long as it satisfies me for the moment, as long as you can keep up the lie that you did when you first met. And you guys all know it. You're taking this person out to this restaurant, you're bringing them flowers to their job every day, and then eventually you stop doing it. I mean, I'm guilty of it. You do what it takes to get them, but you don't do the same thing it takes to keep them. And so when it comes to these things, I've learned through my relationship now, I'm like, dang, it's a lot to learn to this. There is no real manual, because the people that we look up to, they're not telling you how terrible their relationship really is. So well, you're not doing it like so-and-so do it. I bet you they don't do them like that. I bet you they don't do their husband like that. And you don't even know that they're going to counseling every day. They going through a counselor to tell them how to get along. But you're looking at what they show you when the camera's on, the lights are on, when they're on stage. You see all this stuff, and you're sizing yourself up to them. And it's most of the women that do this. Women are great at sizing you up to somebody else. Instead of saying, no, what can we do to be better? What can we work on to improve? What are we going to be saying? What are we going to say to say, you know what? I know I can't change that about you, and you can't change this about me. We just have to live with that. But there's some other stuff that we can negotiate. We can negotiate this. Okay, I can do that. Okay, I can work on this. We can work on that. So let's find what's right between each other instead of pointing out what's wrong. And that's just my feedback on that. That's what I see with a lot of relationships there.
The reason why I asked this question for you all, just 1 second. The reason why I asked this question, because we've seen the times of Martin Luther King where they had strong man, strong woman, husband and wife. And then we've seen a shift where I think might have been in the 70s where there were a lot of absent men from the homes. And it's like society has now transformed from a family of a husband and wife being married to now you have a lot of single mothers raising kids. And then, there's a lot of men absent. But when the men have returned back to the homes in marriages and trying to do right, it seems as if the women have been so used to being independent till it's a struggle to allow a man to come back into the home and take his rightful place as the king of his castle. And then so marriages are struggling because of that power struggle of who's right and who's wrong and who should be in charge. So Brother Davis, go ahead and elaborate on your thoughts as far as how does marriage fit in today's American dream as Black America as we transition from the single parent homes into getting back to the Bill Cosby's and the Family Matters and the show that we've seen coming up that actually betrayed, two husband and wife inside of a home.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I gotta say this first, man. This conversation and being amongst this type of energy is really inspiring. And this is well worth time investing with you brothers. When it comes to marriage, and this is something I've always, it takes courage to say some of the things that I state, but I just got to speak what's on my heart. I try my best not to follow what the culture says. The culture says this, America says this, everybody has their opinion on things. But what I try to base my principles and my values off are biblical principles, and also what my spirit man, tells me, what's communicated to me from the Most High. And with that being said, marriage nowadays, and Pastor Bay has been hitting a lot of things head on, man. Society is telling you one thing, your partner's telling you one thing, the homegirls are saying one thing. Marriage is sacrifice. Marriage is service. Marriage, and in order to understand these things too, we have to understand what truly love is. And a lot of black households and communities that we've seen, we haven't had an example of what a true patriarch is in a family. It's more than just being a father. What about a spiritual man, a man that's a leader, a man that's watching his family with the word, a man that is patient with his family, a man that is sacrificial for his family and understands that everything is not going to be perfect. I had a friend that just passed not too long ago. He had this saying, I'll never be unemployed because I'm always working on myself. Before I look at anything with my wife to judge, I look at myself first and say, okay, we've had a conversation. Things may have went left field. Okay, let me look inside of me first. You know, where is it that I could have done better first, and analyze the situation logically, vice allowing emotions to always lead us to do things that can cause us to be bitten on the back burner. And with society nowadays and the American dream, and the America has told us all type of trash, and the culture has told us all type of trash. If I were to follow the culture, we wearing Gucci one day, we ain't wearing Gucci. We following rappers, we following entertainers, and instead of following the leaders and those who are sold out to the people for the right cause, we're following all the wrong things. So, you know, I believe marriage is vital. I believe that you have to put time into marriage. I believe that you have to kneel before the Lord in marriage. I believe that you and your wife together have to kneel before the Lord in marriage. And as a man who's trying to set a different path for my sons, I have to make sure that I have a relation with God, with Jesus Christ. Some people are going to refute against it. Hey, it was no G, there was no J. I don't care what people say. This is what works for me in my household. And me and my wife, we spend time together in the word. We spend time together praying. When we have differences, I don't believe in going to bed upset. We got to work these things out, and we have to work them out maturely. So with marriage, it's important. It's important that we start locking in now and setting the cornerstone for our families and bringing these households back together. We all know, too, that this has been a wicked game that we've been put in, man. The system has taken the fathers out of the household. It wasn't that the fathers didn't want to be there. We had all type of systems that made our women feel independent. And now when you have a man, so I take marriage so serious, man. When I look at things, and I try to be open-minded too, but from a biblical perspective, God gave Adam the garden. So this is my garden. I'm not looking for my wife to do anything but be a helpmate. I want to be able to cover the bills. I do give her a responsibility so that she can feel responsible for something, but I believe in covering the bills. I believe in making sure that my family has health care and all these things. I believe in making sure that I lead the way for my family, and also lead by example and be patient with them, man. So I can go on and on about this, but I don't deal with what the culture say. We making the culture today on this phone call. We have the power to change what the culture says and to form it to what we want it to be today.
That's awesome, brother. Man, you got some very valid points, man. I really do respect you a whole lot, man. Just hearing how you talk, wife and everything. That's an awesome energy, man. But I do want to thank you for coming on, man, because we just not meeting today, and I would like to be able to connect with you all offline.
That's in my heart to connect with you, gentlemen. Yeah, that's in my heart to connect with you, gentlemen, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I've been knowing Brother Samuel for a long time, man. I met this guy back in the Gulf of Mississippi, man. We was going to Empowerment Ministries where Pastor Greg McGee was our pastor, and I've been knowing him for a while. When I met him, he was married, just freshly married, man. So since you've been married, brother, over the last, I don't know how long you been married. Been 10,
well, going on 11 years, maybe 12.
11 years now, man. Answer this question for me, man. Like, in your relationship, do you feel that a man should hold secrets from his spouse? And if so, how much of a secret should your spouse have access to?
So for me, honestly, I feel like there should not be any secrets. My wife is my accountability partner. When I knew before my wife and I asked her to marry me, what I was asking her was to do is not really take care of for the rest of my life, but I was saying I'm going to commit myself to you and only to you. I may double and dabble and do what I'm going to do growing up, but I'm sacrificing my life for us. to be together forever. So in case paying bills, raising kids, following God, that was a sacrifice I was willing to make, for her. And that was the fuel that drove us together for so long.
Awesome answer, brother. Awesome answer. Welcome back, brother Jay Locke. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. We just been talking about some things in marriages, man. Talking about marriages in America and how they fit the American dream, and coming from a narrative of having a absent father in the home, and the move to bring the black man back into the home, and having to struggle with their relationship, as society says one thing, the Bible says one thing, and then we got our friends and family telling something else. What is your view on how does marriage fit in today's society for the American dream, as we are right now in society?
I think you have two realities, right? You have the American dream version, which really was not designed to fit us, because they gave us a side dream, where poverty and broken homes, and that's kind of been America's history with the African American community. I personally believe we should stop striving for an American dream and just start to more so focus on our own version of that, because we have different circumstances that we wrestle than what the American dream was designed for. So I think we need to give America back all of its devices. I think that we should kind of focus on restructuring, rebuilding our house, rebuilding our community. But it starts at the house first. It starts with, a man, a woman. If you have children, your children's structure. Our reality is very different. If you can work on the household, then eventually you can work on the community. If you can work on the community, you can work on, a county, a state, so on and so on. But I think that is kind of the missing piece. I think that's the puzzle that we need to fix, is the family structure, because nowadays everybody got money, everybody make money, everybody has access to money, but we still kind of stay stuck in our boxes, or our struggle, if you will. So I think changing the structure of the household and bringing back the fathers to raise the sons, to raise the daughters, to be an example for the daughters, I think is necessary. One thing, Malcolm, Martin, the question becomes, would there be a Malcolm if there wasn't a Coretta? You know what I mean? Like, we out here winging it, and we don't have that structure. We don't have that push behind us to say that we can do it, or even to challenge us to be better men. So I think it's necessary.
Oh, awesome. And then the second question was, should a man hold secrets from his spouse, and how much of a secret should his spouse have access to?
I don't believe that a man should hold secrets to their spouse. But that's also something that has to be worked out. If a man is familiar with being alone and kind of moving how he move as a single man, I think that's also a process. I don't think that's especially for us, especially men, like men who are used to getting up when they want to get up and move when they want to move, and that's a process, man, to kind of have some of that normality be kind of replaced with those kind of open conversations. And now you can't just leave the house, you got to have a conversation. Like, that's a process. So there has to be a grace period there. But to answer the question, should there be any secrets? No. Should there be time to make that transition and process? I would hope so.
So I had a quick question. the original question was if a man was to, the foundation of the question, you were saying if the man was not present in the home, if he was absent, then try to come back inside the home, um, to take ownership of his house or his kingdom or whatever the case may be.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I kind of put myself in the woman's perception. You got this man that was doing for the house for so much, and then poverty hits, or bills get piled up, or pressure gets put on them to the point where they break and they go do something else or go try something else, and whatever they tried didn't work out, and now they want to come back home and redo things at home. It kind of puts the home at a disadvantage because
Sure.
that man decided to up and leave. That home still had to continue running. Like the water bill had to still get paid, the light bill had to still get paid, the kids
Sure.
still had to go to school. Those type of barriers was put on the spouse or whoever was left holding the house, and for that man to just come back in and says, "Oh, I figured it out now. Now we're gonna move like this." I think it's a slap in the face to the other person.
Yeah. When I said that, I wasn't speaking of that type of scenario. I'm speaking of the cultural attacks on the Black family that was put in place. For example, if you live in the projects, you can't have a male figure that lived there. I watched this documentary and they was talking about how, whenever, especially in Chicago, when they first put up the projects in Chicago, it was like miles of just housing, and it was pitched like, this is your chance for the Negro to come and live in a healthy environment. We welcome you. As soon as you got these households in these projects, they kick the male figure out, and they've been doing that in America since the beginning of slavery. Like they've been systematically taking fathers out of the home. So this is not my stance wasn't necessarily for the scenario that you put in place, but more so bigger picture, the scenario where systematically, if a family, if a man and a woman is together and they need assistance, government assistance. I know in North Carolina and in some surrounding cities or states, the father has to be on child support, regardless if they both if the family needs assistance, they're going to put that pressure on the man.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and me. So a little bit about me. I'm from. I was born in the projects. And the question I have is, do you feel like the system is against men, or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And why is that?
I've lived it. I've seen it. I've watched households be, the pressure that a man feel, or the pressure that a family structure has when you got to sneak in to be in a house with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Or the pressure of, even though a household is together and that man is doing the right thing and the family needs help, and they put the father on child support even though they're together. It's not like he's not in the child's life, and there's many different variations of that, right? But I'm speaking of, at its core, what creates that confusion in the household.
Okay. Terrel has something you wanted to mention as well.
So, of course, I'm not married, but being raised in a single parent household where my parents were married prior to having me, I want to pen this scenario to you all. Imagine having children, and then so on down the line, the man cheats and decides, oh, I just want to chase him behind this woman. Now you leave a child who's looking up to you with essentially no role model. And now we've got this continuing cycle where it's not necessarily the men who are trying to come back into the household, but what about the men who intentionally just don't care?
Yeah. I'm not speaking for them.
we need to
their battle is not my battle. I'm only going to speak for the man that is
be able to showcase, or rather show our young men, this is what you do not do.
right. I got a question for the panel. How many men on this panel had
Is he froze?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
You froze for a minute, brother. Go ahead and repeat the question.
How many men on this panel had their fathers in their life? I did not.
I had my mother and father. My father was a preacher growing up, so I was a preacher's kid. And my dad was so much of a dad, he became the neighborhood dad. He would go and all the kids in the neighborhood would come down to my house and play. And they would actually come to my house and ask me, can my daddy come out and play like he's a kid? My daddy can't come out and play today. He's taking care of his family, so we can't come out. So I
you were stingy with your dad. You got tired of everybody wanting your dad's attention.
You know what I mean? But you know what? I became my dad. I became a neighborhood dad for my children's friends and all that. So that's all I knew growing up was a double parent household. So I can't relate to the men that grew up without a father, because I had my father in my home all the way up until when I went to the military at 19 years old. The principle that my dad taught me coming up as a child, I was able to translate that into boot camp in the military. And that's where a lot of my success as a man came from, those principles that my dad taught me from childhood.
So out of the panel, there's only 2 men that could relate to that life, right? What are the rest of the guys doing? They're winging it. They're trying to figure it out. And who's left to give them that lesson? Kids who also don't have fathers, or uncles who dysfunctional, or gang activity, or if you grew up in the 90s, you learn it from the hustlers, you learn it from the culture. So
I'll stop you right there, because my mother intentionally inserted Black male role models in my life, whether it be from the church, from where she grew up, from her schools. She got a master's degree by herself. And present. Yeah.
But again, you are 1% of that scenario. Right?
Yes.
When you're looking at it now think about it from a worldwide stance, right? You have 2 out of this panel. You have 2 men that grew up with their father, and 1 man that mother made right decisions of who to put her child around, and it worked for you. Everybody else had to thug it. So when you thugging it, it's like you have to learn how to be a father, and a lot of that is hands-on training, right? So you might mess up the first time you have a serious relationship. There's no order, there's no structure. You got cats that don't even know how to take the trash out, or how to do simple things, because they were not taught. So a lot of lessons is learned, and a lot, depending on who you are, depending on the things that you got to heal from. It's a process. There could be, it's so many variables, right? Like, humans have to be humans, and you have to have room for mistakes. And then you got to get to a point where you're mature enough to forgive yourself for the mistakes that you made, so that you can be available to even have those kind of conversations and be the person that you need to be for somebody else, nevertheless yourself.
So I had a quick question, for the panel. Do you feel like there's a lack of wisdom from men to the younger generation? We're talking about fatherhood. When I hear the word father, I just feel like that's someone that's going to pass on wisdom or knowledge from hands-on training down to me. And like you said, some of us grew up without our fathers, and some of us did. for the ones that did not grow up without fathers, do you feel where will we get that wisdom from if we didn't know who was a good guy, who wasn't a good guy?
For me, God.
Yeah, Mr. Locke, you made a lot of great points. And Sam, to answer your question, Mr. Locke answered it. If you don't have anybody in your life to be a role model, or like the brother that's with you, if your mother didn't insert someone in your life, then you pretty much trying to figure it out. And that's what's going on with us in business. That's what's going on with us in marriage. That's what's going on with us in religion. If we're not opening up to learn, then we're all trying to figure it out. We're not being discipled from youth up. And discipleship doesn't mean church. Discipleship means that you're surrounded by men who can encourage, enlighten, inspire, pour into your spirit, and teach you what it's like to be a true man. See, I come from a background where men were grit. You understand what I'm saying? I was raised with a father, and I was in the project. So my dad and mom, we had to get up out of there. And my dad wanted to get up out of there. He wanted better. He wanted something different for his family. That was the stepping stone. And by me seeing him stick through the trial and tribulation, coming home with joints hurting, but he never gave up on his family. One thing that my father always stated, that he couldn't see us being raised by society. He saw the bigger vision of what it would be like for my mother to be able to raise two sons on her own. That's dangerous in this society, man. I played both sides of the fence. I've been the wolf, where I was pimping and macking and doing all this with the women. And then all of a sudden, I'm at a point now where I'm a man. And as I've grown older as a man, I do things as a man. So now I know what it's like to be inside my kid's life. So even when things get rough in the relationship, my future is pretty much set. The Lord has blessed me. I'm trajectory up, right? But my kids need to see me. So by any means, man, there's a lot of things that I cut off. I don't have social media. I don't dibble and dabble in a lot of things because my psyche, I'm only speaking for Ladarius, I can't take in a lot of the trash that's going on. And every time I turn on something with social media, it's twerking or a booty involved. And that's one of men's biggest downfalls, is a booty. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of it I'm trying to stay away from so I can be in the household, because I come from a life of whoremongering. I come from a life of being with different women, even though I wasn't taught that. But the desires of man, my own desires were to do those types of things. So we have to understand the vitality, man, and the foundation of family, the foundation of manhood. Everybody has their perception on what a man is, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Mr. Locke has said a lot of great things. Sam, Mr. Evans, Pastor Bay, all of us have said great things that I've taken tonight to put into my toolbox to make me an even greater man. You understand what I'm saying? And this system for us as blacks, man, we're fighting something that is wicked, man. We're fighting systematic oppression. We're oppressed within our own selves because a lot of us haven't found the way to tap into the greater as he that's within me. And for those who are not spiritual, we hadn't even sought to be around those who are achieving and doing things in a manner that we would see to be right in order to take us to the next level. And all these things take work. It takes time. As a man, I understand now, man, things don't happen overnight. Man, I used to want to do things like now. I wanted things to happen now, but it's best that time develops you and that trials and tribulations develop you to be who you were destined to be. And Pastor Bay said this earlier. It's easy for us to hee-hee-ha-ha in the good moments, but hee-hee-ha-ha when you're back against the wall. Another thing I want to touch base on too is the accountability and secrets. And I'm going to expose myself here because I feel like I'm in an area where we as men, I'm a man, I believe pressing things head on. We as men sometimes, let's talk about the subject of pornography. Some men may not struggle with this. Some men may struggle with drugs. Some men may struggle with beating a woman's head. Those were things that I was trying to get out of my life. But I had to have accountability with my wife. If you're spiritual, someone to pray for me, someone to hold me accountable. And on a practical level, I needed someone to understand my struggles. I'm trying to change. And Mr. Locke said this earlier. What would Martin be without a Coretta? If you don't have a strong woman, now, I ain't talking about a girl, I ain't talking about a housewife in Atlanta. I'm talking about a woman who understands what it means to have a man, what it means, how vital it is for her children to have a man. then you lost already. So you got to have a solid backbone. It ain't no 50-50 with me and baby. It's 100-100. And we try to give that daily. We human beings, we may not meet the mark all the time, but where I fall short, she can compensate, vice versa. So I get long-winded, man, but this conversation is beautiful to me.
Awesome, guys. What we're going to do right now is take a real quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to get into some more deeper, some more deeper topics. Go ahead.
Brothers need to stick together. As a team, we can make it wherever. Just tell me how you feel. Just tell me if it's real.
What a time, what a time, what a time for a black man to be alive. Living in the struggle while trying to keep our composure. Killing each other while trying to look for that exposure. We all just want to make it, we should do it as a team. Build each other up and they can't even say a thing. Me and all my brothers just stuck together like glue. It's us against the world and you know what we finna do. Woo! Pop a bottle, we in here for celebration. We just wanna be the leaders that's pushing the generation. Take a seat and find your zone for the topic of conversation. Find a way for a positive revelation. Now this really ain't the time to be thinking about yourself, cause we just a bunch of hustlers that's trying to give out some help. We turn the cubs into lions inside of the den. Come and join the Brotherhood if you really just wanna win. Hey.
All right, and we're back. We are back. We are sitting here vibing out, man. We got an awesome conversation going right now. We got Brother Davis on the line. We got Brother Samuel, and we have Brother Terrel Campbell on the line right now, and Brother Jay Locke. So this next question is going to be for the ones who spent time in the military, as it pertains to racism in America. Do you all feel that racism exists in today's military? And the second part is there still signs of segregation in today's military? So we can start with, I know Brother Davis was in the military, and Brother Samuel, you all can start.
Well, for me to answer, I'll start off. Yes, I believe there is racism in the military. I believe it's just worded differently. I know in different branches they could name it something else, but for the Marine Corps itself, I know there was a term used as Green Marine. And when you put two colors together and you come up with green, something is a little bit darker than the other. So for me to answer that question, yes.
How about you, Brother David? Have you experienced, I know what he's talking about, when I was in boot camp, I heard him say green and dark green Marine. And I thought that I had escaped the racism of the world by joining the armed forces, only to find out that even in the Marine Corps, in boot camp, you get referred to as dark green and green to separate black from white. But what was your experience in the military?
Oh man, for my military guys, I'm gonna paint a perfect picture for you. I did 12 years in the Marines, was a gunny when I got out. Why is every sergeant major black and the CO white? That we have more white generals than black generals, and when a black general, we talking 2022, 2023, well 23 rather, we're still talking about the first black to do something. Definitely it's racism within the military. There's no doubt about it. They try to change. I mean, look at the haircuts. A lot of us, we get temp fades. We get our hair faded a certain way, but you want me to have a high and tight. What if I got razor bumps on the back of my neck? All men are not meant to shave. These guidelines, to me, this is just Ladarius speaking for Ladarius. Yes, it's racism. Yes, it's segregation in it. I've witnessed it personally on boards. I witnessed it being deployed, where there were attempts for the Caucasian male to suppress me and to oppress me because of my leadership style, because of my appeal or swagger that I brought to the military that wasn't what they saw fit. And, I'm glad that I went through that too, because it wires me up as a man. I never was green to racism, and it comes from my own people as well, but I never was green to it. So to answer the question, it is definitely racism within the service. And for those Marines, think about the Montfort Point Marines.
Yes.
The Black Marines served at one boot camp at one point in time. You don't even hear about those guys who got Purple Hearts and, you know, all these Valor Awards, but we hear about Chesty Puller, we hear about all these other guys, but you don't hear about those guys who laid the foundation for us. They weren't even allowed to even have the same boot camp that the Caucasian male had at one point in time. This is proven. These are facts, you know. And I still don't think we're past it. Again, when I look at the leadership, I go to the CG's building, and I work for the Army today. I work for the Department of Defense. When I go to the CG's building, it's just like, you know, what we would see on the slave at the old slave mill. You got Caucasian males who run everything, who are in charge in the higher seats, and then you have the Black male who's out there whipping the, you know, he's cracking the whip. He's the sergeant major. He's the gunny. He's the, you know, the guy who's the enforcer. And you have, and I work with flight school now. I love to see a lot of my Black brothers now who are becoming pilots, because at one point in time, you know, you think about the Tuskegee Airmen, and those different gentlemen who's paved the way for us. Look at what they had to go through, and it hadn't changed much today. It's just like slavery. None of it has changed. We've just become more intelligent on how to mask it, and it's systematically now.
So I got a quick question for you, Daniel. I know the question was based off just the military wise. If we take it outside the military, let's say churches, do you think there's any type of segregation within churches where people?
I mean, you know, we have come to a place where I believe that we have done a great job at trying to move on from racism in a certain respect. But there's still racism that exists. And for the churches, I don't know as far as, like, you know, because the church, I belong to a non-denominational church. So, you know, it's blacks, whites, and all that type of stuff in the church worshiping together. But I'm pretty sure there are some churches that still segregated and some churches that still exist today that are racist. I just haven't experienced that type of racism in the church in a very long time. I grew up in a Baptist church, and then for a period of time, you know, we actually became Mormons for a little while, and that was a experiment gone wrong all in itself. But since then we have moved on, and I haven't, you know, I don't even feel comfortable in a church where you can't come in and be yourself and be you know be free, because I feel like if we pattern our life after Jesus, you know, Jesus wasn't segregating. He wasn't, you know, dealing with that type of segregation in the church that he was, you know, running when he was on the earth. So I don't know. Maybe somebody else might have a better experience, but I haven't experienced it in the church in a while.
I look at I haven't experienced anything, but I look at when Lecrae, I think it was during the time when, you know, it was more visible, a lot of African Americans being killed by the police, and Lecrae took a stance to kind of talk about it, and I think he caught a lot of flack, but his base was Caucasian American churches, and a lot of those churches condemned him for speaking on it, and it hurt his pockets. They started to not book him. They started to kind of shun him a little bit, because America doesn't want to hear about our struggles. They just want us, if you're in the sports, they just want you to dribble that ball or score those touchdowns. If you're in the music, they just want you to sing your song and sit down somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Culture. I look at culture. Culture is how you gauge everything. Because it ain't just one man's opinion. It's overall, when you sit back and look at a picture and what's happening, then that doesn't lie. You can't hide if racism exists when you look at the cultural impact.
Yeah. And so like I know what type of business you're in. You know, I don't know if you told everybody that you was a musician and all that. But the kind of music you write, the kind of music you perform, have you ever been part of a peaceful protest? It is across the board, but I'm going to you first, Jay Locke, because I know what type of music you make and everything. But across the board, have anybody been part of a peaceful protest?
I think all protests are either peaceful, and most people are not going to, kick up dust. Like I've been in protests where, in Raleigh, North Carolina, where, a police officer killed a cop. A police officer killed a young man, and they were protesting in the streets, and they was rioting, and there's not too many people that's going to bust a gun for that, or most of the time they come to those things in flip-flops, and it becomes more just to say I did it, not really about change. And history have shown us, the biggest protest is how you spend your money. If you spend your money, that's what they pay attention to. That's the only thing that America respect, is that dollar. If you change their pockets, they tend to sit up and listen a little more. That's the only protest I would care to even engage in.
How about you, Brother Davis?
I would have to concur with Mr. Locke on that one. When I think about protests, from what our forefathers did compared to now, if you really want to protest again, it's with the currency. And also, too, we don't attend any town hall meetings or any meetings where they are actively changing laws or readjusting laws. A lot of times we have no clue that they're going on because we're asleep when a lot of this stuff is occurring. So if you're not in the political portion of it to make an impact on the political side, then the currency, which is another fact that we as Blacks have put trillions of dollars into the economy. If we were to shy away from that, then we could make a true protest. Killer Mike had this show a few years ago where he went around in his city or area, if I'm not mistaken, and he looked for Black-owned places to see how the money was circulating and to see how we were, that dollar was turning over in our community. There wasn't a lot of Black places, Black-owned places where would turn the money over. One reason we couldn't, go against the grain protest in that way. And it goes back to what we stated earlier on the business side of it. We have to ensure that we're standing these businesses up properly and being able to compete by creating hustles.
Brother Terrel is probably the youngest one on here, and he's part of the NAACP. So let me hear from him. Have you been part of a peaceful protest or any type of protest? Being as young as you are, being as energetic as you are, want to try to fight the power and all that. Have you been part of any type of protest in your time?
Numerous. On one hand, we had all the marches in New York. I'm from New York. Let's see. I can name so many that I've participated in those marches. On the other hand, most recently, in my county, Nassau County on Long Island, the Republican Party tried to gerrymander all of our Black neighborhoods. And we had to go to the town hall, if you will, or county hall rather, and protest and say, no, you're not going to separate our communities into these 3 separate entities, pairing us with white communities, which ultimately would have lasted for a total of 10 years. And of course, with that, who's to say we were going to get the resources? Who's to say that we were going to benefit from this proposed forced separation as a means to get back at the Democratic Party? Even though theoretically, yes, most Black folks vote Democratic. So yeah, I've been in a lot, and even in amongst the church, for example, I'm also a minister of music, and within that, I've had to take my stand against several pastors who thought they could just do me dirty.
So, I mean, coming from that, have you ever felt targeted? Has
Yes.
anybody ever felt like you was a target of a crime, or just been targeted for being black?
Well, I've been unfortunately a victim of 2 racial incidents, both within the same summer, 2020, when COVID was going on. So the first instance was when I was working my little side job at Lowe's. I was a plant vendor, and this white lady had been told to put out her cigarette, and to what she responded, no. And so the black guy who was outside had said, "Man, you can't smoke your cigarette in there." So she decides to walk outside, pick up the hose, and spray all 6 of us black men out there. Then gets on the phone with the police and makes it seem like we're threatening her life. 9 squad cars pull up with guns drawn, and an ambulance pulls up. Second incident was at my other job, where a white man had come into the store with a Make America Great Again hat, and he proceeded to keep calling me the N-word over and over again.
Wow. How about you, Brother Davis? Have you been targeted by any police or for racial profiling, or just been in some type of situation where you was targeted because you're being black?
No, I haven't, man. Thank God that I hadn't, especially knowing where I came from with my temper, because I wouldn't be on this call today if so. So no, just thank God I haven't. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do all I can to stay out of the way of the law. You know, I do the best that I can to stay out of their way, and keep them out of mind, because all law enforcement is not bad. I know what the media paints. I know what the world states about law enforcement, but I've kind of done some type of law enforcement work, even with the military. Their job can be very, very difficult. Look at the type of people that you have to police in this era. And I believe too, man, just as, and a lot of blacks will go against me when I say this, we have to make sure we're conducting ourselves in decency and in order. A lot of times when we're approached, it's because we did something wrong. And not all the time. Now, I know I get a lot of flack for it, but in a lot of cases, we have at least something that we've done against the law to attract that attention. You know, I'm a 36-year-old male, man. I don't do much to attract their attention at all. Do the speed limit. I ain't posted outside no corner store trying to sell. I ain't doing nothing but work, church, home. And even before that, I was doing what I could to stay out of the law way.
Awesome. So we almost out of time, but I do have a couple more topics and a couple of questions that we're going to go ahead and let you all and enjoy the rest of your evening. Do you feel that black on black crime is on a rise?
Ooh. Black on black crime, is it on a rise? I think it's just on the advertised. Whites are killing whites just as much as we're killing each other, probably. But I don't know. I'm just shooting up there because I hadn't looking at statistics. But I do know that we have a system that is ran by what I call Pharaoh, that is known to display all of our wrongs. But when I look at the cartels and Russians and all these other different ethnicities, I know that they're doing just as much killing. And you're going to kill what you're around. You know, the average young black brother doesn't live in a white neighborhood. He lives amongst his own kind. So a lot of this stuff is being fed into us a certain way, just like these gun laws and guns and all that. The average Caucasian has way more guns than our young brothers in the neighborhood with these choppers and sticks and all that. That's nothing compared to what the Caucasian male has been storing up for centuries. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you look at the facts of these things, I know that the media and this system pushes that we're killing each other. Is it bad? It is bad. but the media makes it even worse than what it is. Could we be better? Of course we could. And those are my opinions on that, brothers.
How about you younger brothers? Brother Samuel, you feel it is on the rise, or like Brother David said, it's just being more advertised more than normal, but it's about the same. How do you feel about that?
I feel the same thing as Ladarius feel. Me personally, I feel like it's a picture painted to distract us from what's really going on in today's culture or world. I feel like, you know, being from a low poverty area, there is a mindset of prey and being a hunter, but there's no big thing about breaking into somebody's home and you know, beating them up or causing any type of harm unless there was already some tension there. They just sparked up to the point where, hey, this crossed the line and we have to meet eye to eye.
Yeah. Right. Well, I completely agree with both of them. This is just advertising. I mean, look at it like this. You had right after the civil rights movement where, white people are supposed to be getting along with us. Now they're trying to intentionally drive that wedge again. That's all it is.
Okay. And it always seemed like, you know, the things that we do as a people are always highlighted, spotlighted to be so bad when, you know, we know that the rest of the world is practically doing the same thing, even worse, and they barely even get any type of, you know, news time or even, you know, said anything about it. But we as a people have taken the blunt of the responsibility for almost all the negative things, it seems, and we don't get enough credit, enough due for the positive things that we've done. And so for this next question, I need y'all to really dig deep, because this is going to be probably the most uncomfortable question that we've talked about tonight. And we're going to probably end with this: equal rights. What are we fighting for? Because it's said that a majority of the African American community feel that African Americans are superior to the Caucasians, the way we're built, our strength, our organs, and things like that. And so here's the question: if Black America feels that we are superior to the other race, then why are we fighting so hard to be equal to something that we are better than? What are we fighting for? What's the fight? Are we fighting for equal rights to be equal to something that we feel better than? Or are we fighting for reparations? Or are we fighting for just to be? What is the fight? If you truly feel that you're built and that you're superior, then why are we fighting to be equal to something that we feel that's less than us? Somebody give me some feedback.
I feel like we're fighting to level the playing field, in a sense. Yes, we claim, or we as a people feel like we are superior, but that's because we have to go the extra mile just to level the playing field. So if we had been on a level playing field from the jump, that's why we feel we are superior.
I think for me personally, I think it'll be we're still fighting for equal justice. I know if a Black man or some brown or whatever color it is other than a Caucasian or white, if they got in some type of trouble or anything like that, I don't feel like the punishment will be as equal to as a Black man. I think today prisons are still overpopulated with Blacks more than whites, even though the crime is very similar.
Like, you don't even have to think; it's statistically proven.
What about you, Brother Davis? What are we fighting for, brother? What are we fighting for?
This one is real deep for me.
Come on, brother.
And this really touches my heart, because my stance on this is not going to be a popular stance. I don't even know if I'm going to be understood on this. I've come to a fact, man, that if I could break this down, it's like the Matrix. What is being presented to me is one thing, but it's way deeper. This is a spiritual warfare. For I wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against spiritual wickedness in high places. We got in an uproar when Kanye went to stating his thing about the Jews and chosen ones and Kyrie. But if you go to Revelation 2 and 9, the book tells you who you are. I know those who claim to be Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Deuteronomy 28 breaks things down to the blessings and the curses. It tells us that we were brought over on ships to the new Egypt. It's so much wisdom in that book that I follow. I don't push this on any other man. I don't knock any other man's religion. I'm talking about what Ladarius follows. I'm not fighting for anything equal. I don't think there's ever going to be any equality in a system that is demonic. This is Egypt. This is Babylon. I think everything that is put in front of my face is a distraction. Now, to be practical, let's look at who pays us, who writes our checks, who created the ACH system, who designed the Wi-Fi, who did all these things, right? The average person who did this probably was black, maybe starting out, but the person who controls it is not a black, maybe a white, maybe a Jew, whatever you want to call it. These systems are so above us. These things are so above us. And I've learned now to kind of detach as much as I can from the system. I'm in the world and I try not to be of the world, but I'm in it. So I have to face it for what it is. What keeps my peace in this whole battle? No, I'm not trying to fight against a white man that played equal field with him, a Jew or nobody else. What I'm trying to do is make sure I focus on my household, of girding my kids to be better men. What I'm trying to do is make sure that I really establish that household where me and my wife can make something conducive for the generation to come. What I am trying to do is establish Jesus Christ in my family and base my family off rules where we have left and right lateral limits to survive in this spiritual oppressed world. So I don't see this battle the same way that some people see it. I see it as spiritual. In the physical, I see what's going on. You know, and what I do in the physical is this. If I'm tired of everybody else oppressing me and doing these things, then I try to, like Mr. Locke said, and a lot of us said earlier, I try to spend my money within the black community to help build my people. I try to be the example that I want to see. I try to make sure that I give my kids the same education that the Caucasian man is giving his kids. Give them some competition, you know. Level the playing ground by giving them some competition, by going to get me some education, not just in books, but education of life. Blacks have been known to base their life off survival and education. But nowadays it's more survival. Well, education, I think it goes hand in hand, survival and education. But for me, man, everything I've done in my life has been based off survival, even the education, because I had no financial literacy. My parents, yeah, they trained me up well, but they had no financial literacy. So I went to college for the money to be able to do things. I went to, you know, the military pays me the GI Bill. I take that money and I try to do something else with it. You know, my job, you know, the job pays the bills. It's not a career that I'm just happy go lucky about, but it's a great career. It pays well. So I'm taking that to build the financial and generational wealth that we speak of. But I need my kids to have generational spirituality, you know. And living in this world that we live in where everything is so physical, it's hard to see the spiritual strongholds that abound amongst us as people because we get caught up in a lot of the things that society said, the American dream, what the culture says. And those things I'm trying my best to renew my mind on, to renew my spirit on, because I know what the world says, but then again, my spirit is telling me something different. And this is the last thing I want to say before we end. They could take the Bible away. They could take the Quran away. They could take all these things away, right? But I've come to a point now that I have a relationship with God. So in my heart, in my spirit, the Lord is leading me to do what is right and wrong. He's leading me. So they can take the Bible or they can take all of it away. I'm still going off what my spirit is connected with the Most High to develop the spirit man in me to persevere during these times. And sad to say, it's not going to get any better.
What about you, brother? I don't know if you heard the question or not, but what are we talking about right now is equal rights. What are we fighting for? If we are a people that feel that we are superior to another race, then why are we fighting so hard to be equal to something that we feel we are superior to?
I agree with Mr. Davis. I 100%. When you look at how it happened, right? You had civil rights. We was fighting, and it's funny because it comes back full circle. Even with Dr. King, he said himself that he felt like he had been fighting for to get us equal, and felt like he had placed us inside of a burning house. And I think that segregation would have been great for us, because when you look at Tulsa, Oklahoma, and those type of communities that were completely focused on our dollar, our education, our family system itself, we thrived. So much so that they burned those communities down. They did it in Fayetteville, North Carolina. They did it in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a whole list of communities that were destroyed because they do not want us to be systematically free. They want to be able to keep us docile, keep us having to beg them for jobs and beg them for food, and that's how they make money. They make money off of us. We spend the most money in this country. And the funny thing that we have to understand as a community, as a people, is you're gonna contribute to this country one way or another. Either you're gonna go and you're gonna thrive and be successful and you're gonna pay your taxes, or they're gonna do their best to lock you up or put you on probation or something that's going to still, in which they make money off of you and you have no benefit from your time, because time is money, right? So when they giving you 6 to 9 years, they make money off of your time. So there's a lot of things that we don't fully understand how the system work. So we can't even create the barriers to defend ourselves, defend our kids, defend our community from the system, because the system has their claws into our community. So, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Then you have outsiders that come to the community and take our money and leave, and spend it with their communities and with their families. I was in the mall for about 2 years, and it's funny to watch how we go into these communities and into these jewelry stores and these clothing lines or clothing stores that's owned by foreigners, and drop big money. But they wouldn't drop that money with us. When I had other cultures come to me and say my face wasn't on the stand, and they was looking at my inventory, and when I came up to speak, they would walk off, because they understand the power of a dollar. We don't understand that power of a dollar. We only understand it if we throwing it in a strip club or trying to have an identity. We so consumed with labels, and we'll spend our last paycheck for a label. But that's I'm not interested in blending in or being equal or fighting for equal rights. I'm looking at building a community that is us. And it doesn't take everybody to be a part of it. I think 1% of the country runs the whole country in the United States of America. So we don't need everybody involved. We just need a certain key group of people that are like-minded, that want better for the community and for us. But yeah.
Awesome. Look, man, it has been an awesome experience talking to you young men today. One last final thing before we shut this thing down is legacy. We're going to start from the top, Brother Davis, and then Brother Samuel, and then Terrel, and then Jay Locke. What is your legacy? Give me 45 seconds of what you want your legacy to be, and what's your legacy moving forward.
God and love. When you remember me, I want you to remember how I loved, how I kept God first, and everything else lines up with that. I will be a better family man behind that. I will be a better community activist behind that. I will be a better leader behind that. So for those who encounter Ladarius Davis, and I don't want them to remember me, but you remember what I'm directing you to, the Most High, and the love that I would display in spite of what hadn't been displayed to me.
Brother Samuel.
I would say courage and initiative. Just taking the courage to go out and taking initiative, having the courage to go out to take the initiative to do things, to create opportunities for communities to grow in.
All right. God and the reach one, teach one. I take pride in reaching out and teaching all of those people at my university. They look up to me as a big brother mostly, even though I just got there, because I'm just willing to pour into everybody and show everybody what talents I've gained and how they can gain them.
Brother Jay Locke.
He frozen.
He froze. Okay. All right. And so when I think about the word legacy, I think about leaving the world better than where I found it. My prayer is that when God finally calls me home, that He leaves me completely empty. I don't want to leave this world with talent still inside of me. I don't want to leave this world with work undone. I want to be able to say that I gave it everything I got, and the fruits of my labor are not going to only be enjoyed by me, but the Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his kids. So a lot of people know me as this busy entrepreneur guy doing all these different things. But what I'm doing right now, I want it to be lived and felt for generations and generations to come. I want my great grandkids, baby, say that because my father, Daniel Lyons Evans, was on this earth, we was able to enjoy the fruits of these things. So I want to thank you all for joining us tonight and for this special live Inside the Den Martin Luther King edition Brotherhood special show with all these young men on the call tonight. I want you all to like and subscribe and hit the notification button. Join us weekly on Saturdays at 4 o'clock as we go into the Lions Den for Inside the Den Season 3. We are at our mid-season break right now, and we're coming out of it with this show. We are actually located on YouTube, Inside the Den. We're on Roku, Lions Pride View, so you all can check your local listens for that. And we definitely appreciate you all for joining us tonight. Any final thoughts, anybody? We're going to wrap this thing up. Anybody got anything lasting to say about Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy, and as we celebrate his birthday?
Yeah, thank God for Dr. King and his courage and his initiative to stand out and not fit in. Due to his leadership, we're able now to build as like-minded brothers. We're also able to reach down in our gut and perform the duties that we need to with our gifts and talents that the Lord has blessed us with. And I'm thankful to have been on the call this evening. I feel very enlightened, and I thank God I had the opportunity to be able to share it with brothers. And it was a blessing being on tonight. The time was well worth spent with you all.
Awesome, brother. Anybody else?
I think just to piggyback off what he said, just thankful for the setting the example. Martin Luther King set the example for us to follow, and created opportunities for us to reach out to others. You got anything?
You pretty much hit the nail on the head.
All right, well, once again, this has been your boy Daniel Lyons Evans, your Inside the Den. Thank you all for joining us this week on the show. And as always, you heard it from the Den. Peace and blessings. Happy Martin Luther King Day.
Blessings.